Hey, so as we do this tracking between our inner experience and the inner experience of others as we feel it, because we recognize that we are empaths, and as we track external reality for ourselves and perhaps are able to track what's going on for someone else, we're going to be able to develop a way to authenticate our experience. In other words, our felt sense experience authenticates our experience for us. And because we develop experience with our felt sense experience, we can then trust it. We begin to understand that there is a difference between the external world, the internal world, and the external and internal realities of the people around us. Now, we're not always going to be right. I'm not saying that, but we begin to trust ourselves and our sensing. And when we do this, we can experience our intuition, and we will be able to trust our intuition more and more. We can develop a feedback loop. And the feedback loop is when we notice an intuition and we follow it out to see what's actually happening or what actually does take place. And then we're able to validate our intuition. I'm trying to think of an example right now. I have this experience all the time. So, uh, for instance, I did an energy clearing on someone regarding um, a family member, energy they had taken on from this family member who was having difficulty. And when I went to clear my client, somebody else entirely came up. And it made no logical sense. I couldn't understand how this um, now defunct relationship would have anything to do with the energy clearing of the family member, of my client regarding their family member. But I cleared that person for this old relationship. And when I checked in with my client said, "Oh yeah, well that old relationship person actually had urged me to have a deeper relationship with the family member that resulted in this energy burden being taken on." So it ended up making a lot of sense. This happens all the time for me, is that I will get some kind of an intuition, an intuitive hit, and it will be validated. As you pay attention to your intuition, you are going to be able to validate it also more often than you might now realize is possible. As you hang out with other people who are developing their intuition, you're going to experience those people who are the real deal and those people who are not. And I'm going to tell you that I'm the real deal. I have been intuitive since I was a child. When I was about 3 or 4, I saw non physical beings, sort of like the sixth sense. I see dead people, except no gore. I've never experienced that. And uh, that's not how I experience non physical beings at all. But there was a knight in armor who stood outside my bedroom, who was completely real to me, but I knew also that no one else saw him. I don't remember any conversations that allowed me to realize that I was the only one who saw him. But I just know that I grew up knowing not to bother to bring him up to other people. There were voices that came, sort of semi faces that were in my wallpaper, and they were comforting. They gave me good experiences and good guidance. So What about you? Can you remember when, before conditioning took over and told you that only physical reality, only what you could touch was real? And then at the same time, there's all kinds of areas where it's not what we can touch. Love, intimacy, romance, sexual attraction. There might be aspects of those that we can touch, but the experience itself cannot be quantified. Money is another thing. This piece of paper has all this value. You're conditioned to believe that. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but let's really explore our conditioning and begin to notice what really feels real for us. When you encounter someone who purports to be an energy healer or an intuitive or even a psychic, and you're not feeling right about it, go with that and begin to notice why you feel that way. I remember being in a club with a bunch of women friends. This was a long time ago. And there was a tarot reader out on the sidewalk. And my friends were all going to him, and they were telling me I should go to him. And I did not feel he was the real deal. I think I overheard a few things that he said that they didn't make any sense with the cards I was looking at. And I wouldn't participate. But I have nothing against tarot readers in general. I read tarot. So how do we find our way in this world of intuition, spirituality, energy workers? Again and again and again, you're going to develop a feedback loop. See if what you experience is validated by what actually takes place, or see if your experience is validated in that it is both true and useful. So what I teach is that we need to use that measure, what is both true and useful, to decide whether we're going to engage, whether we're going to use something in our daily lives, whether we're going to follow guidance. Another story, not mine, but someone else's. This person worked in someone else's household, and they had to be absolutely scrupulous with themselves. They couldn't do anything, borrow anything, leave anything out of place in order to be trusted in that household. Well, one day their guidance was to take a knife home, a sharp, I think it was a Japanese butcher knife, and take that knife home with them. And this went against their integrity. They took it home, and then they brought it back the next day. Their guidance was to bring it back the next day, which they did. Well, it turns out that there was a rapist in the area where they lived who was abroad that night and was arrested the next day. So perhaps their guidance was to make sure that they had some way to defend themselves if they needed to. So we really need to look at, again and again and again, what aligns with us, what is either within our integrity, or there seems to be a strong enough urgency to step out of what we would normally consider our integrity in order to do something. Or what might seem outside of our normal routine, outside of our normal habits. One friend of mine was getting ready to go out of the country on vacation, and at the last minute decided they felt like they really, really, really had to run a bath. And this made no sense because they'd already taken a shower, they were already dressed, but they started running the bath, and their hot water heater exploded, and they were able to get things taken care of before they left, because otherwise their basement would have been flooded and they wouldn't have returned for some time, and it would have done a lot of damage. So one of the things I talk about, the number one block to intuition, is expecting it to be rational. Good luck with that. It is not rational. And we want to develop a track record, develop a relationship with ourselves, trusting ourselves as we go on this journey, so that we know when to follow our intuition. So, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope that you'll go by these ideas that your intuition can be validated by your experience, and the authenticity of your inner experience is going to help you navigate this newfound skill, if indeed it's newfound, so that your authentic inner experience then guides you more and more. So please subscribe, hit the bell in order to be notified, and leave a comment. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be here every day this week at 11 a.m. Mountain.